Last stand, last stand, last stand, last stand. Oh, fuck, mates, this is embarrassing. You know, the French were swarming Hungary, and I'd shown up to make sure that not a single Sardy got away alive. As I set up, I forgot to give any orders to half the bloody artillery, and being the brain-dead fuckwits that they are, they just waited right out in front of the French army. At the last second I remembered and told them to bolt those blasters back, but by the beard of backers, basic ballistics brought big barrages. No, fucking no, alright? No more, I'm cured. I'm bloody, bastarding, buggering, badgering cured. Fucking quack Time Lords. So yeah, the misplaced muzzle munchers were a prime target for the enemy to warm up their fun guns, so pretty much all of my men got turned into impromptu Halloween decorations. While that was going on, I spotted some strange behaviour from one of the French schlub clubs, lining up real long and thin on the edge of the battlefield. I discovered their sneaky plan later, but before that, I was trying to talk my men out of shooting themselves at the sight of the enemy's secret alien allies flying above us. It was just about the ponziest hot air balloon you could imagine, which helped actually as it convinced my men that this was indeed French. Either that or our new friends from Zeta Reculi 7 had a passion for fashion. Whatever the case, the more immediate concern was that the enemy guns were now giving me a downtown pounding, correctly predicting that my own artillery was at this point about as threatening as a cactus wearing a duffel coat. I had reinforcements showing up though, not where I needed them because that would be far too fucking hard for my IQ resistant generals. Was too busy to sort them out anyway as the enemy was starting their attack on my position in the town. The bastard enemy seemed to refuse to run into the banks of spike traps I'd set up. Pretty fucking rude, mates. Spent hours on that, you know. It's like I'm making you dinner and you're refusing to eat it because you saw me lace it with anthrax. Manners come first, dipshit. Were you raised in a barn or something? Oh right, it's the Frenchies. They were raised in a pile of empty wine bottles left behind by a mob of perpetually striking velvet underwear models. Anyway, outside the town I had all those weird Frenchies from earlier killed, but also found out that they'd been making a massive wall of spikes to stop me going after their artillery. Crafty fucks. I'd shake their hands if they weren't already 3 litres of blood short of a functioning muscle system. If the fucking Europeans had been this cheeky back in the good old days, they could have just stopped the Mongol invasion by tilting their fences over a little bit. The result was that I had to just use my cav to kill regular old gunmen. Not so bad really. Back in the town, the enemy were doing their little dances in front of my firing lines in the north, pretty nice, but further south they were doing classic charge tactics, hoping to get us drenched by a wave of the French, and for the most part it was working. Fuck, looked like my last stand was going to be shorter than my period of sobriety back in secondary school. At last my reinforcements were slowly rolling up, and even better, I had managed to sneak some cav around to hit the enemy's artillery. Their general was snoozing back there too, so we gave him a quick game of pin the sword on the wanker, while my other men tried to silence the boomsticks. I thought it was all in the bag and good to go, but less than 10 seconds later I'm being told that my men had given up trying to kill the random collection of one-legged children they had guarding the guns as it was too hard. Pretty weird, usually my men aren't that fucking atrocious. But I guess with the shadow of the alien mothership overhead, maybe they got spooked, I don't know. Basically things were getting worse and worse. Kinda what you expect in a last stand battle, but come on. I came all this way and my men were being a right royal disappointment. And when you consider that I'd accepted the fact my men got food out of their teeth by using a bayonet and a hammer, you can imagine how low they had to sink to make me think they'd fucked up more than usual. I needed to try and turn this all around. First, I gave a load of orders to my reinforcements that roughly translated as "Stop getting fucking annihilated by a single enemy company, you mong-mouthed shit miners." Then I told the men fleeing the town to just go sit in a building and lock the door. That'd probably delay the Frenchies a few years at least. Finally, I had my cav left in the town go get ready to make an artillery run in less than 12 parsecs, while others gave a warm Sardinian welcome to an enemy general who'd showed up on the north side of town. Quickly things stopped looking more shitty than a 2-star bed and breakfast in North Korea. My reinforcements managed the intricate task of standing in a line and shooting the enemy, finally allowing them to get their equally unimpressive act together and move up. The cav who popped the enemy general got wiped out by their reinforcements, but they'd done their job already. They probably would have slipped into a latrine pit and died later anyway, so it's all good. And the raid on the enemy artillery was 100 times better than the first one for some reason, wiped them all out and even persuaded the other general, still squatting back there in the bushes, for fear of falling into a latrine pit no doubt, to take his case of runs on the run. A few moments later he died of embarrassment, leaving a corpse that even the readiest of bogans wouldn't loot with a 10-foot sewer skewer. The battle had really quietened down as the main French force was pissing about in the town while their reinforcements slowly crept in from the north. Since my guys were coming from the south, that basically meant we'd be in a pretty good position for a regular battle now. I sent my guys up along an inexplicably useless in peacetime stretch of wall with a little copse behind it to hide my reserves, a prime location for a last stand with more standing and less having your limbs suddenly decide to have a race to the four corners of the earth. To be totally honest, it actually didn't involve all that much standing, as most of my men were just sitting down, blasting the frenchies as they came close to our little wall, with some guys walking around the side for some fusilier flanking action. It was actually a bonza little arrangement. We stopped losing men there and then, and the icing on the gore gâteau was that the enemy balloon goons seemed to be spinning out of control up there, getting a rotation that would have vomit spewing from even a guy brought up in a washing machine. The main worry was that the enemy artillery would show up and blast my mighty fine line, but the scouts reported they were raving at the back with a load of curious cav, firing the odd shot whenever the beat dropped like a bunch of techno-Tchaikovskys. So that meant I was free to just chill and kill, break out the tinnies, let the swamp dingoes have a little run around, enjoy sitting in the pleasant European countryside and not even have to get up to shoot the approaching French. It was the weirdest combination of a village fete and a desperate last stand I'd ever seen, but fuck me if it wasn't the best thing ever. Like with most things in life though, a bunch of twats in square hats showed up to try and ruin it. Luckily my horses were off grazing in the next field over, so their psychological warfare wasn't going to do shit this time. Instead, we invited them to sample our buffet of musket shot, bayonet wounds and playground insults, and soon those lancy losers are taking their stinky butts back to Smelly Town with their sexuality thoroughly in question. Now I should give a special mention to the last survivors of the original defenders back in town, who had completed my orders to lock themselves in random buildings to keep the French busy, and were now shooting out the windows at anyone who passed by, actually defeating a squad of enemy marines. It's far from every day you see such acts of quality soldiering from Sardinians, so round of applause to those guys, although the second they ran out of ciggies they ran off, leaving so many stubs behind in the house that it burnt to the ground. Even the most heroic of Sards are a bit shit, you know, you just gotta understand that. Back at the line there was a bit of a scare as the enemy's death balloon was spinning wildly overhead, with any occupants of the basket long being thrown at by the intense rotation, but really it was just passing on by while the suspiciously pleasant gun battle ticked along below. Shot some Frenchmen, it was a good day. There were a few pesky death robots who spoiled the peace by charging headlong over my bullet stall wall, causing my men to run back into the tree line. However, I'd prepared for this and was ready with fresh troops to shoot not only the fleeing cowards, but the following Frenchies as well, making sure that everyone involved in the incident was dead. Then my new unit could move up to take its place in the death line, nice and simple. Things were actually getting better and better. We had a big block of Frenchies outflanked on one end of the line, gunning them down by the 100 while they waited for new orders to reach them via the area's shitty Wi-Fi. Pretty much the same thing on the other end of the line too, blasting away at those Terminator tributes so hard that running out of ammo was starting to be a real issue. And in the centre, the only not shit men Sardinia had ever produced, the 3E infantry, was single-handedly turning back any advancing androids. Just to make sure things don't get too rosy here, remember the enemy still had way more shit than us, and my loyal General What's-His-Name got stung by a bee, had an allergic reaction and died. Luckily, the upside to having troops with no respect for their officers is that they don't give a shit if they die, so everyone stuck around to watch the Frenchies annihilate my centre with an infantry charge. I had loads of guys who'd run out of shots sitting around at the back, so I threw them in to charge like no ammo Normans right into the enemy's ranks, while I busily organised guys to shoot into the melee and just kill everything. After all, the amount of use I have for the average Sard is pretty much proportional to how many bullets they have left. It actually worked better than expected, forcing the Frenchies to run for it when they realised that once I stopped shooting my own men, they would be next. There was still more to kill after that, but we were actually starting to surround the nearby French while the rest were still in the town, so the killing continued to go in our favour. But the bad news was that the cannonade rave on the other side of town was over, and now the French were actually just going to blow our faces off with their massive ranged advantage. Unless, that is, my handful of remaining cav could sneak over and not fail miserably at achieving the only thing they're good for. Had a bit of a scare, as it meant I had to pass through the Great Wall of Stakes, but from the other side, so in theory my men were safe. Still shit myself though, as you know what my men are like, but it was all fine. We made it through and we killed the guns. Pretty quick they were in trouble though, as a load of enemy lancers charged at them, and now thanks to the spikes I couldn't go back. So it was a race to find the end of my wooden adversary and get around it so that the spikes would be between us and the French horses. Managed it okay, and then saw the French were going to try and rush through the spikes. Had my master plan worked? Would the enemy be destroyed by their own trap? No, fucking no. The enemy horses must have been of the breed that didn't voluntarily impale itself on any spikes it gets too close to. They just walked through the large gaps between the spikes and continued on towards me. I'd underestimated my enemy even more than I overestimated my allies, so my cav were fucked. Or were they? Yes, this drama continued as my cav split up, one squad leading the enemy back to my lines, the others sneaking around to go after the now undefended guns. It was brilliance, bonzilliance even. I'd outsmarted these damn machines with sheer human wit. Sure, they could calculate how many party hats you needed to stack to reach the moon, but they couldn't work out A, how not to get shot, or B, how to deal with my men getting square like it's 1992. The main line was pretty much all out of ammo at this point, but honestly we were out of things to shoot at as well. Most of the French army had retreated or been shut down, and the pundits were saying that now I was the favourite to win this thing somehow. The artillery was pounding us, but the cunning cav were on the job, slicing them up while avoiding the attention of all the enemies still in town, and avoiding their alien allies who at this point seemed to have just floated off to go peek through people's skylights or something. And really, that was it. Seriously, the rest of the French troops were just queuing up to use the bogs in town, not realising that old Jean-Claude who went in earlier had injected himself with garlic butter and was ODing on the floor. So we just enjoyed the rest of our day in the country, knowing that the Frenchies had to be in bed by 6, so they'd bugger off eventually. It left only one more important task for the day: counting the dead. I hope you've all placed your bets on how many Frenchies were felled that day. Looks like it was a fair few, so I hope you guessed bloody high. I surveyed the battlefield, seeing bodies everywhere, mostly the enemy, although it was hard to tell since the copycat Napoleon made all his men wear blue so they'd look more like mine. Corpses all over the fields, corpses in the woods, in the hills, piles here, piles there, and loads of corpses inside the town too. Even spotted some kind of multi-man, a new species of human that exists as a crossover between parallel universes, being multiple people at once in what I assume is an agonising existence, but he looked pretty chill about it. Alright then, how many was it? You ready for the truth? Tinny's almost empty, but there's another swig for ya. We killed 5,897 French fucks, losing less than half that amount ourselves. Alright, technically we only killed 5,000 or so, but 800 Frenchies followed Jean-Claude to his garlicky fate in the levees, I guess, because that's how many bodies we found. So fantastic, Hungary was ours and 2 French armies were history. But of course you're probably more interested in who got the closest answer in the Guess the Body Count challenge. We had some good guesses and some shitty guesses. Special shout out to everyone who guessed 0, well done for being an arse. I pissed in that milk you drank this morning, by the way. So first, here are some honourable mentions for the contestants who got somewhere near to the right answer. So well done you guys, you're master generals in the making, easily a cortex or 2 higher in the brain chain than my own generals. Now in second place, with a very close guess of 5,777, is Tom R. Only 120 dead cyborgs away from perfection. So super well done to you mate, but I'm afraid to say your stellar performance was topped by the width of a roo hair. In first place, with a guess of 5,999, only 102 off the mark, is Dan Valk. 3 cheers for you buddy, you're a death prediction machine. Probably would have been spot on if I hadn't used up so much of my ammo shooting my own troops. You're a true blue body count psychic now, and no one can take that away from you. If you're watching this, send me an email or a YouTube message or something and I'll send you some kind of shitty prize so you can remember how badass you are. Anyway, all that aside, in terms of the story, we were ready to bounce back and smash France and Spain up as I started my final push for victory. But I've been 15 minutes without a drink now, so I'm hitting the bar. I'll fill you bogans in next time.